Tick tock, tick tock. Well, I guess the microphone's working. And golly, I started a couple minutes earlier than I thought. Apparently, I did not set up today's live stream in advance, so I'm afraid YouTube thinks this is the continuation of the one from last week. Oh, gee. Okay. Yeah, I love the sound of that clock too. I have a clock in the living room that belonged to my uncle, who, when he left teaching in upstate New York, it was a clock at the school there, and he just took it along with him as a souvenir of his time as a teacher. And it stayed with him all his life and was out at his cabin. And every time I'd go out there, I'd hear that thing. It'd be ticking away. And then when he died in 68, 69, my dad inherited the clock and refinished it. It's a light brown oak instead of dark brown. And thing's still ticking away. It's at least 100 years old. Good clock. Let's see, lots of people saying hello. Let's say hello back. Bob Darlington looks like he was the first. James F. Pop. Joe Mercado. David Fuller, greetings from Semo. What's Semo? David, tell us what Semo is. Good evening from Peter O., Mark Rogers, P.A. Conrail, Dan Youngs, and he says that I helped him get his general, and you're certainly welcome for that. And I'm glad it worked. Good evening, Dave. Yeah, tick-tock, tick-tock from Life and Death. Hope I'm well. I am doing pretty good. The ankle doesn't bother me in the day or the knee. And I don't really take anything for it. Let's close some of that down just a little bit there. Yeah, a little too bright. It doesn't bother me during the day except when I lie down, and then I can't seem to find a comfortable position for it. At night, I usually go to sleep lying on my back with my knee kind of up in the air. And then in the morning, I wake up on my side. So it's coming along. It's like watching paint dry, you know. Hurry up, hurry up, hurry up. I'm ready for this to be finished. I'm getting to be a better wheelchair driver. You know, I can appreciate a little tiny bit the trouble that handicapped people go through. I mean, it's a pain for me, but I know that it will end. There will be a time in 3 or 4 weeks where I won't be in a wheelchair. You know, and I can only imagine what additional challenges people face when they're in a wheelchair for life or months or years or whatever it may be. I have noticed places where I come up to doors that I can't open, you know, have to wait for my wife to open the door. For example, at Culver's, they just put in a store here. Culver's is a fast food shop, and they had the best ice cream where you can put in a little raspberry and a little strawberry. It is so good. But it's hard to get in and out of. Laura has to open the door for me. There's no button you can push to get in and out. Anyway, I'm just musing as we've got 15 minutes until our official start time. One thing I mentioned last week, I went up to meet my flight instructor, and we were going to, quote, swing the compass. I guess this is something you do with boats too. But there's a compass rose painted. You don't print out a runway. Painted on the taxiway. And you line up your your aircraft with it, and it tells you where you're actually pointing, and you take little notes on where the compass says you're pointing, so you can build a compass calibration card. It's a little bit more complicated than that, but essentially that's what's going on. And we were going to do that and got together up there, and I opened the hangar, and the first thing I smelled was fuel. And come to find out that the fuel line in there, this line that green tubing, it's legitimate fuel line, was put in Arizona, and then the aircraft spent nearly 10 years in a hangar, in unclimate controlled hangar in Phoenix, and so that hose got to cook for 10 summers. And then I bring it up here and expose it to cold. This is the first time it's ever been exposed to cold after all those years in Phoenix. You know, cold as in 20 degrees Fahrenheit. And the hose has cracked. And the first time we noticed it, it was on the pitot tube, which is what you use to tell how fast you're going. And there was a leak. And so our airspeed indication came alive and then died, just as we noticed that it was going back down just as the aircraft became airborne. So we flew one loop around and came back in and landed. And then I came in and find out that the same hose now has cracked at a T in the fuel system, and was dripping loads of fuel, gallons of fuel on the aircraft, or on the hangar floor. So that has been, aircraft is in service now. I asked them to remove every inch of that bad fuel line, replace it with new fuel line, and the same with the pitot and static air pressure lines. Replace them all. Replace it all. Get it all out of there, which is going to take some doing, because you got to get into some parts that are a little hard to get into. But oh man, I tell you. Okay, let's see. We've got VE3 OEI from Palmerston, Ontario. Pedro, hello. Yes, I am feeling pretty good. Evening, Dave. Hope you're well. I am. K04 LFT. And good evening, Dave, from W4MKH. James Pop is there. Bash Coder saying greetings, Augies. Yeah. Oh, wow. We jumped way ahead there. Sorry. There are so many comments. I'm sorry. I just can't really get it all in. Hello from Germany, Wisconsin, frigid northern Illinois, and I understand that they're getting major snow out in California. We still have about 6 inches in the backyard, but we got a little touch the other day, not much. The clock is a hand winder, and as is the grandfather clock, well, you don't wind it, you pull the weights, and then the one on the wall, the old schoolhouse clock, is definitely a hand winder. The schoolhouse clock will go a week or more between windings. Same with the grandfather clock, goes a week. And this clock here is supposed to go 30 days, but it doesn't quite make it 30 days all the time. Proof that a BSEE can get an extra while knowing very little about a ham radio. Yeah, you just learn the rules and regs, and the rest comes naturally. Hello from Charlie November 8. Charlie November 8-4, Lima Whiskey. A, and looking for a good but affordable power supply for the 7300. Well, the reference station power supply is the Samlex 1235M. You can get less expensive power supplies. MFJ makes a number. Make sure it's 20 to 25 amps. 20 amps continuous, 25 on surge. So you can also take a look at the one from PowerWorks, the PowerWorks SVDV30, something like that. And that is, I think, in many places under $100. It's a very good power supply. Let's see, Todd. Smokin' Ape is here. Hello, how are you? He says, howdy, Dave and folks. He's got his own YouTube channel, a good one. Greetings from Argentina. Just started following the channel. Simo. Oh, southeastern Missouri. Okay. It's like when I lived in Florida, LA. I told people I was from LA and they thought I meant lower Alabama when I meant Los Angeles. Idaho. And hello from the Dominican Republic. What ground method do you recommend for an antenna on the roof of an 8-story building? You may have to just do with the counterpoise in there. That's awful far from ground. Sometimes if it's a concrete building, the rebar is a good ground if you can get to it. A lot of buildings you can't. Let's see. From Newfoundland, Victor Oscar 1 Alpha X-ray. Show us the clock. All right, show us the clock. There it is. OBS. It is streaming. Okay, excellent connection. I hope that went through. Okay, hello from Dominican. We looked at that. Thank you so much for the red wire video on the Windows 10. You're a lifesaver. Good. Good evening. From AC3EK from Scotland. Any problem mounting antennas on a metal building? No. You put a vertical up there. I would throw down some radials. Though the problem with the metal roofs is that the pieces don't always make good electrical contact with each other. Let's see. Any good 10-meter antenna project ideas? Just put up a dipole. It's dinky. 5 meters, half wave is 15 feet long. From Montana, Kalamazoo, 23 degrees. Woo. My weather station stopped working again. So mudslides in the Santa Cruz Mountains. Yes, I've heard. Santa Rosa, California. And hello from Keith, from Simon, Benehex, from Maryland. Snow incoming. And good day and thanks for New Zealand from Gert Albert Olivier. Sioux Falls, good evening from Ohio. South Florida. Wish to use 2 inverted V antennas in the same orientation. How far apart should they be from each other? Well, it depends on whether you want them to interact. If they are for the same band, they will interact and you can get some directionality out of them. If they're from different bands, you don't need to get them very far apart. In fact, you could make it a fan antenna, which you can hang as an inverted V. And from Switzerland, HB9CAX. Aloha from WH6, which would be Hawaii. West Virginia, Dublin, Ireland. Wow, from everywhere. W2, AEW, another famous YouTuber. Got quite a nice YouTube channel there. A new ham from Aaron Last, KO4LHW. Welcome to ham radio. I hope you find it a rewarding and interesting hobby. Neil says, good evening, Clearwater, Florida. Arizona. Okay, and he says his wife and he are going through the technician course with the videos every day. Great. Okay, I hope it really works out well for you. Let's see, the latest from here. This is finished now. This is the QCX Mini. I took a bunch of pictures in the final that I did. I had the thing set up for receive using an outdoor antenna. So I went back through the instructions again using an indoor, using the dummy load. I've got a dummy load over here. And set that up. You're actually supposed to go back and forth between the adjustments to get the right adjustment. And then the next thing I did was get it from 1 1/4 watts out to 5 watts out. And the way you do that is by spreading out the turns on a couple of the coils in here. One of them I started to spread them out and the power went down, so I forget that. And it's a 5-watt radio now. This is a 5-watt radio. If you look at my other QRP radios, they're much, much bigger than this. This is so cute. The little feet on the bottom are migrating though. But now next is to get it on the air. Would love to hear your thoughts on mounting a vertical delta loop using a building as the mount at the apex. Well, if you can stick something out from the side of it, it would probably work. It will be directional. The building will act as a reflector. Possum Town, K5ARN. Okay. Can you explain antenna phasing? Yeah, but not simply. Let me write that down as a topic. Phasing. Phasing antennas. Basically, you put up antennas and the patterns interact. In some places they interfere destructively, in other places they interfere constructively. So you end up with a beam in one direction. I've got some old charts on that can demonstrate that. I'll have to find those out. Thornton. You're in Thornton, Colorado, I assume. That's near Denver. I'm on the other side of the hill, south of Grand Junction. Okay, I want a hex beam, but which one? I have the MFJ and it works fine. Let's see, eating lunch and dinner. Okay. What is your opinion if using shielded Cat 6 Ethernet cable for feed for random length wire antenna? All light wires. Well, if you twist all light wires as one, it's the equivalent of one wire. So you're fine there. I'd like to calculate the power loss and balance FT240-43 material. You'd have to consult the manufacturer for how to do that. What can this mini radio do? This is a 5-watt QRP transceiver, single band for 20 meters. Okay, 5-watt single band QRP CW transceiver. And I'll have to compare it with some others. New to radio, however, professional electrician. 8-story building, a good ground would be any I-beam, or I'd say you could use any electrical conduit or panel, all grounded to earth. Okay, there's an answer for you. I'm interested in, well, just ordered the KIO hex beam. My hex beam is a great antenna. Now, one thing you got to note with a hex beam, you need a rotator. So, I have MFJ's least expensive rotator, which is this thing right here, and it doesn't have a model number on it. It's actually made by High Gain. Well, it is. Let's see if I can pull it out just a little bit there. Anyway, there's the directional indicator on it. And I need that to turn the hex beam. Brian Garber, thank you for contributing to channel funds. Hope to see you in Dayton again from WB8 AM. And I would like to also, Dayton's been canceled for this year. Ace Poe. Hello from Alabama. I'm Bettina and I want to get my tech license. What should I do? Go to ke0og.net, ke0og.net/training. There's a video there that will tell you what you need to do, where to get the book. You can even get it through Amazon, get it cheaper shipping, and then there's a whole series of videos that walk you through the book. The other thing you want to do, Ace, is go join a local club, because then there will be people there who can answer your questions. You may need to do a little club shopping to find a club that's friendly to youth. They should be all, but not always. Now using homebrew 20-meter vertical, lots of noise. Considering either end-fed half-wave or G5RV Junior, I'd go with the end-fed half-wave. I've not had good luck with G5RVs. Interested in a video about a V or UHF antenna like the really large 17-foot verticals from Diamond? The way those antennas work, they're basically stacked end to end, up and down. So, they've got sort of a donut coverage around it, and the more antennas you put there, the flatter the donut. So it goes out further. XP updates on the QCX Mini. Yeah, I have a QCX Plus. It's still waiting for me to build it. Now that's the opposite of this. That's where you go big with it that way. DB Cooper. Well, I don't agree with either of the... Well, I agree with one of the two things you said. I'll leave it at that. Will you be working winter field day? Our club is. I'm not. And Pungo Breyer got K04 LMT. Participated in a net last night. Very nice people. Good. Thinking of a hex beam. The pattern on that thing is about a quarter. It's 90 degrees. 90 degrees there. So it's not real narrow beamed. Okay. It was a 727, by the way, DB Cooper. Yeah, oh, there we go. Okay, thanks. Okay, will be a rotator. The most inexpensive one, MFJ has, I think it's like $155. It works fine for it. Regarding the antenna on top of the building, should I get something like the Comet GP9 or GP1? I don't know the Comet antennas. Maybe somebody here. DB Cooper, we're going to have to ask you to limit your political comments. If you don't, I'm going to have to hide your comments from everybody. Let's see. Gorgeous Smith Corona right here. It's Smith Corona. It's a classic 12. From the serial number, it appears it was made in 1973. So while I was, let's see, I got home from the Philippines in 73. Okay. Harry Rundle adds $5 to channel funds and says, thanks for your great videos. Our club loves them. Good. Okay. Yeah, 727 had the 727 was designed for airstrips that had no infrastructure. So they could just roll up, drop the tail, people could get in and out, and they could fly away. You didn't need gates or anything like that for them. That market kind of didn't materialize that way because more and more airports just went to the standard configurations with walkways and things like that, or ladders to get up into the front. And I can remember, I have gone in and out of the 727, in and out the back stairs, but they had to fix those so that they could not be opened in flight. Laurel, Maryland. Do you have solar in your shack? Yes, I do. I have a 250 watt panel outside that feeds some great big batteries over here that in turn feed a little repeater battery right under the station. And WA3ZCR just passed the extra test taken online. Congratulations. Okay. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm going to be I'm going to be a little firmer about this business of people who love America but hate 90% of the people in it. Do I like Heil products? Yeah, they're fine. They're a little pricey, but the Heil headset, the Pro 6 and the Pro 7, are great. They're headsets, so you've got very nice headphones on it, plus a mic, a boom mic that comes out. And then what you usually do to complement that is under the table put a foot switch. So while you're operating, you just push down on the foot switch, and that will cause your rig to transmit. And then that leaves your hands free, both of them free, for doing whatever you need. Okay. They're good ones. I want to broadcast my NES gameplay through the RF connector and transmit wirelessly to multiple portable CRT television with a clear video signal. What do I need for that setup? Your gameplay. Well, probably just get yourself a wireless router and do it that way. You'd need a laptop or something to pick that up, but that would work. Yeah, DB Cooper, wherever he is. Okay. Got into amateur radio, got a license? Great. Kevin K3 KTB sends $5 to Channel Funds. Says, I'm going to do winter field day on a frozen lake ice fishing. Wonder how good the radials will work. Well, just lay them out on the top of the ice. Now, fresh water is not a good conductor of electricity, okay? Now, if you were ice fishing in the ocean, you'd have to be up in the Arctic to do that, I think. Salt water is a wonderful conductor. A single wire down into the water and you've got great radials. Okay. Let's keep it on. Let's see. Okay, I am going to have to, I'm very sorry, DB Cooper, but I did warn you. Okay. 727 was great on the air shuttle runs. Yes. Twice as many exits, very quick to get off. Yeah, I know. You know, on the great big airplanes, there's quite a few doors. And in some places in the world, they will bring up a catwalk to all of the doors. They can load the airplane very quickly that way. Jonathan Robertson sent $5 for Channel Funds. Thank you. What do you think of using a computer server power supply to be used as a ham radio power supply? The problem with the computer power supplies is that when they say 12 volts, they mean 12 volts. They don't mean 13.8. They mean 12. It's actually 12. In your radio, if it's a mobile radio or something like the IC7300, 12 volts is fine. You won't get the full power out, but it'll work fine. On my Yaesu FTDX 3000, 12 volts is too little. It needs 12.6. Otherwise, you get unexpected results. In other words, it hangs. But I would go with a ham radio. Yeah, I already turned off poor DB. Usually he's got some very interesting comments. I don't know, he's grumpy today. DB, I hope you come back. Just don't fall asleep with your foot in the switch. Yeah, that's true. Will you participate in Winter Field Day? I am not going to, but our club is. Do you play the clarinet in your theme song? I love that theme music. My wife hates it. It is from Google or YouTube Music Library. So it's a piece of music I can use without having to worry about rights or issues or anything like that. And it's a piece of music that has two things, a sting and then the full piece. The sting is the introduction, and the full piece plays at the end. I'll play the sting for you. See, it's just 5 seconds of music and introduces the full piece. The full piece is really nice because it goes back and forth between the clarinet and the piano. And it's just really cool, sort of a New Orleans style jazz kind of thing. Found your QSL card from back in 1992. Wow. Let's see, is there a Bluetooth radio to go with AirPods? I think there probably are. Yes. The where is it? The Anytone D878UV 3 Plus has a Bluetooth. Okay. Okay. Am I wrong for feeling guilty about using FD8 to populate my QRZ logbook of the world contacts reward? No, nothing wrong with that. Don't worry about it. Okay, I'm worried about your health and sleep. I'm getting plenty of sleep, believe me. It feels like cheating, yeah, because it's easy. What is interesting about it is that it can work with very, very weak signals. It's even better than CW at working with weak signals. Have you done any videos on contest logging or workflow? No, I have not yet. If you take, there's an outfit, N3FJP. If you look it up on the on Google, he has contesting software for every contest, and you put it in your you put your laptop right next to your radio, and you copy the call sign right directly into it. It'll tell you instantly if it's a duplicate or if it's a new whatever, new multiplier, and so on. And when you're done with it, all you do is just hit enter, wait for the next, put the call sign in, and so on. And the N3FJP software all works with each other. And then there is a master log called all contact log, which I use. And it makes contest logging totally spiffy. Plus, it will also create the file that you send in to whoever's sponsoring the contest for contest credit. And it will also put everything up on Logbook of the World and all that sort of thing. It's a very, very nifty way to go. Can you do video for the reference station about sealing coax connections for water and weatherproofing? Yeah, let me do that. There's a tape you can get down at Ace Hardware that will do it. Okay, waterproofing. I'm getting my list of topics for videos here. Okay. Oh yeah, if you can get it up to 13.8, you'd be fine doing that. So making Thursday an interesting evening. If you drive a ground rod, like for an electrical panel, is that a sufficient ground for radio grounding? No. I would drive a ground rod right outside your shack, and then you bond the two together using number 6. I would recommend bare stranded number 6 wire using crimp connect or screw-on connectors from your station ground rod to your utility ground rod. Mine are about 30 feet apart, so I've got a wire between them. If it's bare, you can bury it. It kind of acts a little bit as more of a ground rod. Have I done a video on FT8? I have, yes. Let's see. MD, no problem. Which mode is more sensitive, PSK 31 or FD8? FD8. Although I've had some pretty good PSK 31s. Does anyone do PSK anymore? There's a little bit, yeah, there's a little bit. Want to try out PSK 31 on a new ham? Your best bet's to try it on 20 meters. Logging is optional. Yeah. It is optional. You don't have to log. Let's see. Do I have an opinion on the UV9 handhelds? I don't have one. What is that blue thing behind my right shoulder? That is a typewriter by Smith Corona, made around 1973. And you'll never guess where I picked it up. I got it at Dayton. I went through the entire flea market, and that's the only thing I bought. How's it possible to make contact with an SK call sign? Oh dear. Yeah, by the way, this little thing has a CW decoder on it. It doesn't always work perfectly, but if it's a well-sent CW, it will. Let's see. DX Commander passed the Dutch novice license. Good. Okay. Now, we're going to switch over to doing some questions that came in. If you want to send a question to me, you can send it to hamradioanswers@gmail.com. Hamradioanswers, that's plural, @gmail.com. I cannot guarantee that I will get to all of them. Now, what I've been doing recently for some of my videos during the week is I'll go through those questions until something triggers me, and I'll make a video about it. One of those had to do with why 50 ohms. Somebody asked me, why is a ham radio cable 50 ohms? And I did a little research and put a video together, and I don't know what happened, but that video went viral. Most of my videos, I'm lucky to get 8,000 or 10,000 views. I've had over 150,000 on that particular one. I don't know why, and it seems a very niche topic, but so anyway, I got that one from one of the ham radio answers. So let's go up here, and we will enter hamradioanswers@gmail.com. And there it is. We'll take the top one. This is from Randy, 89TC. Would it work to build a fan dipole with one element for 75 meters and a separate element for 80 meters to cover the entire band? Or would their similar resonant frequencies interfere somehow? It would likely work, but it will not cover the entire band. At most, a dipole on 80 meters will cover about 100 kilohertz. And you've got 500 kilohertz to cover. So 80 meters, if you want to get the full length down at just go for the 3.55 megahertz, which will put you very close to the FT8 frequency down there. And then trim the other one for a part of the 75 meter band. I suppose there is nothing to stop you from putting 5 dipoles together in a fan, cut for 80, 79, 78, down all the way down to 75 meters, and it might cover the entire band. You will get interference between them, and that's going to be one big hairy antenna. There is no passive antenna that covers all of 80 meters. Now, my vertical, which isn't working right now, and I can't go out and troubleshoot it in the snow, is a step IR, big IR antenna, and it reels out just enough cable to be exactly resonant on the frequency you want it. For 80 meters, there's a loading coil, and the loading coil has 5 taps on it. So when you tap the thing, you go for different portions of the band, and that's how it covers 80 meters. Now that's an active method of covering all of 80 meters. The other thing that you could do is build a disc cone antenna for 80 meters. That would be what, 40 be 120 feet high, and would need a whale of a tower to anchor it because you're going to have a whole bunch of wires coming off the end. That would be an enormous antenna. And now the League has an antenna where they take 4 wires, they've got cross pieces of wood, and then 4 wires running parallel to each other, on the theory that the thicker the wire, the higher the bandwidth. So if you make the wire this thick by just giving 4 wires together to kind of simulate that, you can cover more of 80 meters. The other thing that you can do is like a 43-foot vertical and put a tuner right at the base of it. And that'll cover 80. But again, that's active. And you got a 43-foot vertical. And the 43-foot verticals just do not work unless they've got 75 million radials. Okay, so we'll take that one out. Let's see. Oh, somebody is... I get people who want to cooperate with the channel, and that's fine. But they're selling backyard furniture or something, you know, and it just has nothing to do with ham radio. Yeah, I'm just going to... That one is so long. Sam Carlton, KE8PTI. I recall seeing on one of your older videos how your shack is powered by battery solar, not the grid. Can you talk about that setup? I have. I've made several videos on that. The gear you're using, how you determine the amount of battery in solar. The very first time I put up solar was with a 30-watt panel. And I had an old tractor D8 battery, lead acid, flooded lead acid battery. And I made my own charge controller for that and wrote an article about it. It's in the 1997, April 1997 QST. It's still available. You can look for it. Just look up my name under author and the older QSTs. There's a newer batch and all the old ones. And I'm in all the old ones. In fact, I've got it right here because I haven't figured out a place to put it. Let's see, it was the April 1996. I got the Cover Plaque Award for that article. And it's Power Your Station from the Sun. And that outlines the basics of what you need to know for solar power. Solar power is so much cheaper these days. The panels are. The balance of system isn't. I'm using a Bioenno controller set for, they come set for lithium, but I had to reset it for the lead acid because that's what I got here. And those batteries are getting close to 15 years old, and they're just keep chugging along. They're real high quality batteries. Now for the reference station, since I'm using a plug-in power supply, the reference station is powered by the utility power. It can be powered by the solar, but I choose to power it from the utility so that it is truly the reference station. Everything in the reference station, if you go to dcasler.com/reference, you will find that everything in there I've got and I'm using. It's my station. Okay, so I can talk about that. So, yeah, if you will go to my channel at youtube.com/Dave Casler, DaveCasler, and then you can search my channel up at the top. Just type in solar, and that ought to take you to the 2 or 3 videos that I've done about that. Okay, we are going to do that. This is from Bruce Bittenbender, K3BBB. I think this could be useful to all hands to test antennas and propagation. I have an ICOM 7300 but this will work on other radios, is to store in one of the CW memories, example test, DEKE0, KE0, test, DEKE0OG. You do not need to be proficient or even know CW to do this. Go to any ham band, pick a clear frequency, press the memory, and the test message will be transmitted. Then wait a few minutes and go to www.reversebeacon.net/search, srch.php. Type in your call sign and see the results. The sample below shows all calls, but the spot call will only show your call. Easy way to check your radio, antenna, and propagation. Well, this is a good point of view, or a good suggestion, and I think what I'm going to do is make a video on that. Let me see, we print over here, and I will just print this on the brother right there. Okay, and we'll keep that right here. This is a good idea that anybody can do. You do have to do it in the CW portion of the band. It won't work in the single side band. I have made this work, but let's see, we'll go down here. Okay. Found this antenna in the woods. What is it? Let's see. How do I show this? Screen. Look at this antenna. It's got on a tower with a kind of amateurish connection of the guys. Each of these is a Yagi, okay? Each of those is a Yagi. And it looks like they've got their wires coming down to some central point. So yes, you could use this for direction finding by finding the antenna with the strongest signal. You'd probably put the signal strength from 6 receivers up on to there we go. That's a little easier to see. Put them up on a scope or something so you can pick the one that's strongest the fastest. So that's weird. That is a fun looking little thing there. Okay. Let's go back to normal view. Let's see, this is from GERD. Delta Charlie 4, Charlie X-ray, which would be Germany. Hello, David. I find your videos interesting for video 356, which I think is my most recent video. Share my experience with a very inexpensive vertical. Use a flagpole that's 20 feet long, counterweight, or 16 radials of different lengths buried in the ground. An antenna tuner. The antenna tuner will have to be right at the base of the flagpole, and the flagpole has to be insulated from the ground, just like any vertical. Okay. A flagpole $35, copper wire for radials $20, a tuner, which was a Charlie Golf $3,300. He says it works very well for him, and he is in the northern Black Forest. Well, thank you very much, Gert, for that information. That's interesting indeed. Okay, there are some of these that are just too long for the air. Let's see. This is from David M. Carney, KO1C. I saw your informative video on radials. I have one question. When using elevated radials, does the feed point on the antenna also need to be elevated? Yes. Or can the feed point be at ground level and then the radials start at ground level and angle up? I wouldn't. If you're going to put the antenna down at the ground, lay the radials on the ground, because then you can just lay a bunch of them. For the bit about the tuned radials to work, you've got to have the antenna at least 5 or 10 feet in the air. I would recommend 10, because then people can walk under the radials without the guillotine effect taking place there. That's what I would do. I hope that answers your question, David. Okay, the next one, Martin Philpott, doesn't give a call sign. Dave, I have noticed that my phone signal improves if I plug in the USB charge cable. I think this may be because it improves the antenna. There's some videos on this subject. Phone, I think he's just referring to his phone. When you plug in the charge cable, what you are doing, especially if the other end is not plugged in, you're in essence creating a counterpoise, or the equivalent of one radial for what's in there. And yes, that would tend to improve reception a little bit if you're in a marginal signal area. Something you might try if you're out in the woods or something like that. Okay, very good. Thank you, Martin, for the suggestion. The next one is from Roger Miller, W8MT. He liked the video on the operation of the PTRX 7300. Okay, this is the one that puts a little tap inside the 7300 so that you can run your shortwave receiver or your SDR receiver off of that. It doesn't appear that I can have the same frequency in the 7300 and the SDR play receiver. Should be able to. If I do, the signal is fairly strong in the SDR and I can hear myself talk on my laptop. Yes. I am using the SDR play RST1A and SDR Uno. Yes. Is there something I am missing that will mute the SDR play when I transmit? Well, it does mute it. It does mute it. But the problem is that you're so close that the coax, although it has very little leakage, has enough to put a strong signal in there. This is perfectly normal operation, and it's okay. Appears to be okay when they're separate frequencies. Yeah, if it's a problem for you, go ahead and tune it off. But yeah, you're going to get a real strong signal, even though the signal, even though the receiver lead is disconnected inside the transceiver, you're going to get a loud signal in the SDR, and it's not a problem. Okay, this next one is from Janet Sprague, KE8MXN. I want to try to get a dipole antenna and J-pole up to 30 feet. Right now they are hanging on my house. Can you recommend a telescoping mast that would hold these up? Cannot afford a tower right now. Neither can I. I love watching your YouTube videos. Thank you so much for all that you do for us new hands. Janet. Well, thank you very much for your kind words, Janet. Somebody in here I've got the MFJ one, which is a nylon thing that goes up like this. It's like 35 feet tall, but the top droops over and kind of hangs down. It won't hold any real weight. There are other tubes that will go up, but I don't know where to get them. Maybe somebody in the comments will know where to get them and can put a link up there for us. Okay. Let me just go down one here. Daniel Lampkin, KC1MRZ. Hi Dave, I'm trying to build a dummy load. I soldered one end of a 50 ohm resistor and some magnet wire that I stripped both ends of to an SO239 chassis connector. And when I hook it up to a VNA, the SWR is through the roof. Something's not connected properly. Tested the SO239 with a multimeter and it reads 51.2 ohms. What am I missing? Is there more to dummy load than just a 50 ohm resistor? Note that the resistor, oh yeah, rated at 100 watts. Okay. For that resistor to be rated at 100 watts, it has to be a wire wound resistor. Okay. It's got a ceramic form. It's probably about that big. Got a ceramic form. You know, it's all covered with ceramic. But underneath it is nichrome wire that is coiled up to make a resistor. And at DC and at audio frequencies, it acts like a resistor. But at RF, it acts like an inductor. And that's why the SWR goes through the roof. You have to use resistors that are not secretly inductors. Now that would be, a carbon composition or something like that would act as a proper dummy load. You need to get a resistor designed for RF. What some people will do is if they'll take 1 watt resistors and let's see, 50 times 100 is 5K. If you take a bunch of 5K resistors, wire them in parallel, you'll have a 50 ohm resistor that can handle 100 watts. So, give them a heat sink of some kind. Yeah, you're using a wire wound resistor, and that's why you're having the trouble. Okay. Okay, that's a long one. Some of these long ones might be good for videos or something. Daniel Weiss, Weiss, W-I-C-E. That could be pronounced many different ways. Just like my name. I've had it pronounced many different ways. W9DSW. I have looked all over the web and cannot find any info on how manufacturers design and build and configure their dual band high gain ground plane antennas. And I think you were talking VHF here. I understand the trap coils on HF multiband Yagis and how they work, but how do the caps plus coils get figured to make them work like when they say that it is 3 5/8 on 2 meters, 8 5/8 on 70 centimeters that are inside a 17-foot GP? Always pull out the center parts to check for bad joints and or caps. Well, first of all, what they're doing is they're stacking antennas. They're using the coils to create inductance and the capacitors to create capacitance to make the thing resonant. And it's quite an art to make these. If you've ever looked at the butternut HF9V, I have one way out in the backyard laying on the ground under the snow right now. I took it out of service because it was getting unreliable. It was so wiggly from spending so many years in the wind. The thing is, it had big coils and capacitors and things like that. They're not traps per se, but they're adding a little inductance at just the right place so that the antenna will behave. It ends up acting like adding a little bit of loading here and there. A capacitor at the top of an antenna, which you can create by creating a little capacity hat at the top, makes the antenna appear longer. Now, you can put a coil at the bottom of the antenna and load it that way, and it will make the antenna look longer. So, inductance at the near end, capacitance at the far end will make the antenna appear longer. How do they design those? I don't know. Sometimes these antenna manufacturers will make reference to some technical paper somewhere in there, or some QST article or something like that that talks about how they work. Usually with an antenna like that, there is a several-page instruction manual insert that talks about how this is the best of all antennas, nothing could ever be better, it's perfect, and so on. I know the butternut sure does, and so do some others. There are lots of different ways to make antennas. Okay, 17 feet, wow. That's tall. I think somebody was referring to that in the comments earlier. Okay, this next one is from Brad Hollis. I've heard you refer to a trapped antenna. To what does the term trapped refer? This is the one I used for my most recent video, the one I did on trapped antennas. So it's there. Let's, oops, that was supposed to go away. Okay. This is from Paul Posner, KI5NGR. I plan on having a metal building constructed later this year. Do you have any suggestions or concerns for operating a ham shack within one? None whatsoever. Go ahead and do it. By the way, I ordered an Anytone AT-D878UV Plus for my first radio. That's an expensive radio, but a very nice one. It has DMR as well as FM. Hopefully I didn't bite off too much. Well, you will grow into that radio. I don't think, well, that's a top-of-the-line handheld, so there's not going to be much on there that you're going to be missing. It's a very nice radio. I have two of them here. I hope you got it from Bridgecom Systems, because they offer excellent support for those radios. Okay, let's just do that. And I'm going to go back here to live stream, and we're up to 275 concurrent viewers, $20 in chat revenue, 99 likes. Thank you for all the likes. Those really help. The chat rate is 4 chats a minute, so I'm way behind. I can't get to all of them. MFJ sells a quite affordable 300 watt dummy load. Yes, my dummy load can take 200 watts forever. It just turns it into a heater. And it can take up to 1,500 watts for 4 minutes. And it is, I'll show you, it's right here. This is what I was using earlier when I was testing it. It's a Heathkit Cantenna RF load resistor, and it's built into a gallon can, and you build the thing, and then you can load it either with transformer oil or with mineral oil. Now, I had no access at the time to transformer oil, and it's a good thing I didn't, because I would have gotten a whole bunch of PVCs at the time. I built it, I think, in the 70s. And it's got mineral oil in it. The problem with having mineral oil in it is the mineral oil can seep through the closed can lid. And so the top is always gooey and oily. And I looked in there after some 30 or 40 years, and the amount of mineral oil was down about that much, so I topped it off. And mineral oil is the same mineral oil you can go buy at the drugstore. The same mineral oil your grandmother tried to get you to take, and you hated it. But that's my dummy load, and it's a very nice one. I have checked it on an SWR meter. It's 49 to 51 ohms over the entire HF band. Somewhere around 110, 120 ohms, you get this weird bumps in the curve. And then for 2 meters and 440, it just smooths out real nice. So I don't know what's going on in there, but something. Okay. Let's see, what have we got? Ray antenna. Maybe suggest you contact Callum for DX Commander. I have a DX Commander. It is out in the snow right now. I have not finished construction on it. We got the snow. Unfortunately, I don't think I'll be able to do anything with it until the snow is gone. And then I'm going to get that thing up. I've got a place for it out in the backyard, and I think I've got enough coax to run all the way out there. QRP guy sells a 10-watt dummy load kit cheap. Yes. Lowe's 3-section 23-foot painter's poles. That might work for you. Old well pipe, yeah. Let's see. Let's see. Craigslist for pipe. Wow. $100 you can build a telescopic mast using EMT electrical conduit. Start with 2-inch pipe and work down to 3/4. Weld a nut at the top of each pipe, drill a hole, and use a bolt to secure. Good idea. Okay, Costa Rica. AC8XU. Let's see, simple wire 40 dipole. Made up of just the wire, works pretty good. What can I add to the antenna to improve it? Just get it up. If you can get it up to 66 feet, you'll get the best pattern out of it. I mean, a dipole's a dipole. If you make a dipole and it works for you, you've probably got a great antenna. It's got a decent SWR. At 66 feet, it's going to give you an SWR of 1.6 to 1 because it's actually closer to 75 ohms. So you can put in 75 ohm cable, take it to your tuner, or the back of just your IC 7300, and it's gonna work just fine. The radio will tune it, or you can just tune the 1.6 SWR. That's not bad at all. Have you ever measured EMI from the back of the 7300? I have not. I have an EMI tester and found 5 to 10 microgauss around the back of the fan and other connectors. Well, the fan's got a magnet in it. So it's got a permanent magnet in it, and probably it's in the rotor part of the fan, and that would be why you're getting that. Add other elements and turn it into fan dipole for other bands. Yeah, that's a good thing you can do with 40 meter dipole. At 20. 20 is going to be opening up a lot here. Let's see. Okay. Antennas like half wavelength off the ground or as high as you can put them. Yeah, up to a half wavelength. When you go above a half wavelength, funny things start to happen to the pattern. Now that gets you a problem because if you go up 66 feet for 40 meter and you have a 20 meter component on it, that's a full wavelength high. And you're going to get a double pattern, a double loop on the pattern. Let me show you what that looks like on the overhead here. Normally, here's ground, here's your vertical. The radiation pattern looks like this. This is the radiation pattern when the dipole is 1/2 wavelength in the air. Now, if you put it 1 wavelength in the air, that radiation pattern changes. Here's what it does. You're going to get a lobe. Whoops. That lobe's too high. You're going to get a lower lobe and a higher lobe. Okay. This lobe will keep going down the higher you go in the antenna. This will come down, and if you go any higher than that, you'll start getting a third lobe in here, and so on. And you go real high with it, and you're going to end up getting so many lobes that it's hard to tell what you got. This is why real exotic contest stations will have like a 120-foot tower with a beam at 120 feet, another one at 75 feet, and another one at 50 feet. Because you've got all these lobes the tall one may not be hearing very well. If you switch to the middle antenna, you can get a better signal. If that one goes bad, just check one of the other ones. It's all because of the lobing. Now, how many people can afford to do that? Not very many. But it's something that, you know, the real high-end guys doing that. Okay. Ham Radio DX is here. Hello. Any way to get a dedicated line level signal out of the 7300? Absolutely there is. With your, let me lock that wheelchair. If I don't lock that wheelchair when I sit back down into it, it can roll away from me. When you got your 7300, you got this with it. Okay, now you see this plug right here. This plug has a whole bunch of little pins in it. There you go, you can see the pins. This plugs into the back of the radio. And then you can see all the wires that come out of that. Okay, now you go into the full manual, and there is a section on connectors. And on page 18-2 is this page right here. And this tells you what all the wires are, what the colors are, and what they represent. And let's see if there is one in here that is a 5-volt ground send, BDT band, ALC, no connection, 13.8, D key, controls modulator input, fixed AF detector or receive signal output. Okay, it's number 12. And you have to, I believe, set it in a memory. You go into ACC/USB output select on the connector set screen and set it to AF output, and you have a line output for your radio. That's a fixed level output. Okay, so it's there. You've just got to get it off of this thing with all those little wires on there. Hope that helps. Well, the thing is, K6ARK, yes, the lobe is lower, but you're sharing the power with the upper lobe. So if you have a 100-watt antenna, instead of 100 watts in one lobe, you're getting 50 watts in that lobe and 100 watt and 50 in the higher lobe. So you've lost 3 dB right there. 3 dB. And if you go lower by making that antenna higher, you lose even more and lose another 3 dB out of that thing. So your trade-off is you're pointing your signal lower, but you're cutting half the power out of it. So it pays your money and takes your choice, I guess. Let's see. Okay. Is there any antenna that works great on DX that is not super expensive and you won't need a tower rotator? Yeah, vertical. Just vertical. Get a good vertical, good radial field. With the kinds of verticals that are ground mounted that you need radials for, like DX Commander. Okay, DX Commander is one. The more radials, the better. You get that last little bit of power out of it. By the way, the radials don't need to be real long. If you've got a choice between big, hairy, long radials and a few of them, or a bunch of shorter ones, go for the shorter ones. Okay. Great to see you here. Is there any... Okay, that was the one. DX Commander. Yeah, the DX Commander is a fan dipole turned on its side. It's a fan vertical. There's an element for each band. Okay? And it's a simple concept. It's the fan dipole concept, except turned to point up in the air, and then you throw out as many radials as you can. Simple in concept and works really well. Okay, would love to hear your thoughts on the ZS6 BKW. I have not really looked at it. The low angle radiation is still greater, not according to the modeling that I've done. Can a multiband 610-2040 dipole antenna be tuned with a tuner for other bands for use with the 7300? Yes, but I think you're talking about the reference antenna there. You'll need a wide range tuner, and the 7300 does not have a wide range tuner in there. The best way to think of it, in most modern radios have narrow range tuners. You might call them touch-up tuners. They'll bring a 2-to-1 SWR down to 1-to-1 or something like that, 3-to-1 down to 1-to-1. Okay, use a plain Jane 40-meter dipole, talk all over the world in 100 watts. Very good. Very good. Let's see. I have an AV680 and do not hear very much DX. Now the AV680 is an antenna that does not need radials. And if the KE0, okay, you're in the Midwest or West, and we're not going to hear nearly as much Europe as if you'd been on the East Coast. Okay, and the Killer Spud, I don't know if he's from Idaho or not, he's been running DX Commander and has done very well for him. The ZS6 BKW is an improved G5RV. I guess I'd have to look at it. Okay, people are going to bed. My goodness, we are out of time. I always run out of time before I run out of having fun on this live stream every week. It's a real pleasure to talk to you and to get to know you better and to share all your ham radio comments and all those things like that. I've got some ideas here for future videos. We'll try to do those. Didn't quite get one up yesterday, but I was going to try and answer a question of why antennas get longer as the frequency goes down. And had some ideas where I was going to start with the discovery of the speed of light and the fact that all electromagnetic radiation, goes at the same rate, and Millikan's discoveries and all that sort of thing, and see if couldn't make it into something really interesting. So we'll see what we can do. Okay, let's see. Many do overlook the doublet. The doublet is actually a non-resonant antenna that you tune, and you can do great with it. Optical Man Jeff threw in $10 to the channel funds. Greatly appreciated. Thank you. And so I'm going to say 73 for now, and we'll see you again in a week, and I'll try and get some videos up in the meantime and see if we can't, for once, actually hit the goal of one a day. My airplane is in service to get all that fuel line replaced. Boy, if that had happened in flight, I don't know what would have come of it. And we did have the problem of the pitot tube stuff happen on takeoff, and that was bad enough, but that we just circled around and came back. We flew it based on the tack. And let's see, the leg is coming along fine, so it's the depth of winter here. I'm tired of gray days. I'm looking forward to sunshine and green grass. And with that, I will say 73 and talk to you again next week.